In the name of the living God, our Creator, our Redeemer, and our abiding presence. Amen. It is certainly no secret that we live in the midst of a time of a great culture crisis, a great clash. The word woke is broad in our land and high in our knowledge. And I thought I should look that up. I have a feel for what it means, but maybe I'm not absolutely certain. And I looked and saw multiple entries, all of which said the same thing, that woke means somebody or being awakened to the reality of injustice and bad treatment and abuse. And one source said it really arose in the 1930s in the African American community to indicate somebody who was awakened and alert to the suffering of that community and of people in need. Interesting. And yet now, being woke is politically bad. It is attended with the concept that we should avoid such things as DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion. Imagine that we should think that diversity is bad when the God of all creation created the great diversity of what we know as the world. Imagine that it should be bad to think that equality is bad, that God, who loves all equally, does not want us, his creatures, to love and to consider all equal. Imagine it is considered bad that God, who reaches wide the arms of inclusion, including all peoples, should encourage exclusion, denial, and inequality. It has been said recently that Jim Crow in this nation, which arose in the 1870s, 80s, and 90s, that Jim Crow is not dead. It is just now clothed in the opposition to being woke, clothed in the opposition to the idea of loving God's diversity, loving God's sense of equality, loving God's sense of inclusion. And it's logical at this point that you may be saying, but a sermon is supposed to be about God and faith and not about these political matters. There have been recent tests, experiments, in which people with clipboards have had the words of the Sermon on the Mount in front of large churches, people streaming in to fill these huge auditoriums. And they have held out these clipboards and said, will you please sign in favor of these concepts? And the most common reaction is, that's that woke nonsense. I wouldn't approve of that at all. Not realizing that those were the words of Christ. So ill-educated, ill-trained, and ill-thinking in terms of theology and the nature of God. Imagine supposed Christians rejecting Jesus' Sermon on the Mount And many of those same people claiming to be Christians, when pushed a little bit, will say, oh, well, Jesus was certainly naive. He doesn't live in our time. He doesn't understand the complexity of the modern world. And so we are to oppose those verities which Jesus taught in a profound way. It seems to me that we are faced with a choice between the standards of Jesus and the modern Jim Crow. And in relation to that choice, we have this morning's epistle, in which Paul says we should continue our lives in connection with Christ. That is to say, we should continue to live by the standards and the behavior that Jesus taught and lived in his own life. And Paul said, don't be captivated by mere human tradition, which is to say, self-serving politics, self-serving behavior, which considers not the well-being of the community and of other individuals, the tradition of humans, which excludes divine standards. And therefore, he says, essentially, do not heed and ignore the DEI of God. Do not connect yourselves to those ideas that say diversity is bad, while God says this is the nature of my creation. Do not say that equality is bad, when Jesus sought to treat all with an equal love, and the Father equally loves. Do not ally yourselves to the exclusion and to the sense that inclusion is bad, when Jesus himself sought to include as diverse a group as possible. And Paul said in this morning's epistle, maintain your connection, hold fast to the head. That is, hold fast to the sense and the understanding of Jesus and the way he lived and the way he gave examples. Hold fast to that when you are challenged by mere human traditions. And the anti-DEI and the complaints about woke are certainly the living embodiment of mere human tradition. To hold fast to the head, to hold fast to the nature of God, to hold fast to the principles and the style and the life of Jesus, it requires some essential characteristics. It requires courage in the face of an almost overwhelming opposition to the DEI of God. It requires a constant growth in knowledge and understanding and genuine study of Christianity, of the scriptures, of the nature of God. It requires not just thinking good thoughts, but the implementation and to speaking in favor of God's DEI. We are faced with a choice. Will we adhere to the DEI of God or to mere human tradition?